I wanted to provide this video as a follow-up to the previous videos that show what's happening in Walton County as a result of House Bill 631, the Line in the Sand bill. This is the bill that's now law, which has defined new lines in property ownership and has effectively led to trespassing charges, potentially, against visitors and residents, particularly in Walton County, but potentially all across the state of Florida. Now, those that may defend this bill, and there are not a whole lot of them left anymore, assert that, well, it didn't change things much. And that was certainly what was, I think, being argued during the legislative session, that, pass this bill because it really just codifies the existing law. Well, I'm going to drop in a link down here to show what's happening in Walton County immediately after passage of this bill, and that is private property owners, rich waterfront property owners, are now erecting barriers along the beach to keep people out. Now, this can only be seen as a grab by rich property owners trying to keep out the general public from what is arguably our state's most precious resource, that is our beaches. We've, from the beginning of statehood, welcomed visitors here. It's our beaches that have a lot to do with our economic success. But as a result of this bill, now all of that is in contest because you're seeing videos, including my friend Daniel Felder, who are being harassed by law enforcement, who are called there by private property owners and trying to kick people off the beach. Now, understanding what this legislation is and what's behind it requires understanding some litigation that was occurring in Walton County. There were some parties in Walton County that sued Walton County to try and enforce their rights. This was Lionel and Tammy Alford, who owned this waterfront property at 20 Sandy Beach Road in Miramar Beach, Florida. They sued Walton County because they had started erecting fences up along their property and extending that down to the water. And Walton County enforced certain ordinances to try and prohibit that. I mean, think about this. If you went down beaches and you found that all up and down beaches, property owners had erected fences that go all the way down to the water, wouldn't that dramatically change the whole character of the state of Florida? Forget about tourism, forget about everything else, because no longer are beaches open and welcoming to tourists and visitors and everything else, but private property owners will go up and erect fences and then start calling the sheriff's office, who would be threatening arrest to private property owners who are on there. It's just a ghastly situation. Anyway, the Alford sue goes to district court, goes up on appeal, comes back down. Ironically, it's styled as a free speech or a First Amendment kind of case because they make this bizarre argument that if they're not able to put up a fence and have signs in there, then somehow their First Amendment rights are violated. But on the core issues, particularly regarding the right of the public to enjoy the beach, it wasn't entirely successful for the Alfords. So, having not prevailed in court, now we go into the legislation, and apparently legislators were given this idea to plug in what they were told was just sort of some fix-it language that codifies the existing language in law regarding property ownership, and were made to believe or convinced that it really wasn't that big a deal. Well, buried in this other link that I'll share is a link that shows all of the lobbyists that were part of this. And what you see is very rich, high-paid lobbyists who are there supporting this bill, and they're not doing it for free. But the bottom line is this. It seems like what the rich property owners did not achieve in court by challenging this Walton County amendment, they were able to go into the legislature and get a law passed that has a statewide application, that has dramatic impact on property rights, and again, effectively keeps the people out of beaches by defining the beaches and what we commonly understood to be the public area as now private property. It sets up a dramatic conflict between people and rich property owners. It's a conflict that probably won't be solved in court anytime soon, and probably the best hope is in the next legislative session some new legislation is passed. But the key issue is customary use. The key issue is ensuring that the general public has the right to make transient use of beaches, which are our key public asset. And again, we want to respect private property rights. Don't want people running up on the dunes and going up into people's houses. But one of the things that's most striking to me is when you look at this Walton County beach and you see how wide it is. You're talking about hundreds of yards between the water and the white sandy beach. And to think that these property owners can't stand to have a few people hanging out there with umbrellas and beach chairs is pretty damning commentary. So what we can hope for is that good lawyers like Daniel Felder will continue to fight these issues on behalf of the people in Walton County, and that this will begin to bubble up as a statewide issue, and that voters might speak to legislators and make this really as a key issue in campaigns coming up, because that's frankly what it's going to take. It really comes down to whether people are going to have the right to access public beaches, or whether the legislature, controlled by Republicans and signed by a Republican governor, are going to continue to take actions which prohibit the ability of the general public to use our beaches.